Hey guys, what's up? This is Twisted, and this is our raw cap footage of our first kill that we got in Heart of Fear, Amber Shaper, Sock. Uh, so this fight is in three phases essentially, and this first phase here, you start out. It's pretty scripted. You deal with like the abilities that are going to be in both the first and third phase, but most of these abilities are retained for the second. But this one, it's really kind of as a healer, it's a conserve your mana phase, and it's also really good practice for the two tanks to do one of the additional duties, but I'll get to that. So, all right, what specifically what I'm dealing with as a healer, I'll just talk about this ability first. There's a debuff that goes out on people. It's about to go out right now, and it's called Parasitic Growth. Now, Parasitic Growth is really frustrating to deal with as a healer because what it does is it goes out on a target, and any healing they receive will increase the damage it does to them, and it's like a dot, so it just continually does more and more damage to them the more healing you do to them. So it's like one of those things where if you're debuffed with something, you don't want to take any heals. However, I'm a discipline priest. This like parasitic growth ability, it actually doesn't gain any like stacks or do more damage if an absorb is on a target. So my duties here specifically are I'm trying to get as many absorbs and mitigation effects on somebody who just got hit with that ability. So, I'm and the other thing about this fight is discipline is since this ability is out there, you don't want to be doing atonement healing while it's out because it'll atonement heal that person because they have the debuff like a dot, and the atonement heals will prefer to jump to them if the tanks are top. So what I'm doing here is I'm getting the atonements really up, like I'm really trying to get my Archangel stacks quickly before that goes out, and then once the debuff does go out, what I'm trying to do is I'm using the Archangel wings to get a bigger shield out on that target. So that's what I'm dealing with primarily in this fight. The other things that are going on, and this is going to really test your DPS's ability to coordinate, there's an ability chasing one of our raiders around now. It's called the Amber Scalpel. What it does is it carves this little thing into the ground. As you can see here, it draws a little line of tiny dots. What those tiny dots do is they erupt into these little blobs. These blobs do splash damage when they die, so you want to kill them, but you want to stagger kill them, and then when they do die, they leave these little puddles on the ground that you can't stand in. So managing these puddles, keeping them under control, not overwhelming the healers by blitzing them all down, and having like pretty good awareness, like spacing checks, stuff like that. That's what's gonna test up the DPSers. And then the other thing about being a DPS on this, you really want to be burning down like the boss's priority. These little ads kind of want to come secondary. I wouldn't recommend like bringing them to the melee and just like cleaving them because they do splash damage. So like this is one of those things where you need to be able to like range need to be able to like smart pick them off when they can. Like people need to pick them off when they can, but you don't want them to go out of control either because they are sitting here stuck to a target and they can't be taunted. So that's another thing that's going on. Now we're already in phase 2, so I'll talk about like in phase 2, the boss that you were attacking in phase 1 becomes unattackable. Like he's still tankable, see he's like off to my left, but he summons this big giant yellow dude, and that guy is the thing that you need to prioritize in phase 2. Now this big giant guy does some extra things that are crappy. One, he explodes, and that will very quickly wipe your raid. You can live through the explosion, and even with like no mitigation, I found that it didn't like wipe the raid, it didn't kill him, but you really don't want it going off. The other thing he does is he picks up like the tank, and then he throws them, and when he throws that tank, it stuns the person it lands on. So it's not just like an annoying, oh, here's the taunt swap ability, it's also, oh, it's annoying, and if you're still too close to somebody from like phase 1 or whatever, you still need to stay spread out, because if you get the tank thrown at you, you're going to stun everybody that's like around you, so that's a big pain in the ass. Now the biggest thing about this fight is, if you can see here, the little amber guys, those are my raiders. Every now and so often, the boss will put this ability on them, and the ability is called Reshape Life. When you're in this Reshape Life, you have an extra like vehicle bar, like it treats it like a vehicle, and you have some new abilities. The first thing that you're going to notice is your extra energy bar will start depleting at a fixed rate. When it starts depleting and it reaches 0, it kills you. So that's one thing you need to manage, is you want to make sure that doesn't hit 0 while you're in the vehicle, or you're going to die. The other thing you need to manage is the boss doesn't do anything, but this big yellow guy does that explosion. Well, you have a button, your number 1 button, it's critical to the raid's encounter success that you interrupt his explosion. However, the other thing the 1 button does is it puts a debuff on the current target that makes them take more damage, and it's one of those things that you want to keep stacking and stacking and stacking, and it can fall off. So if you're the guy that screwed up and let all of the stacks fall off, that's totally on you, and you don't want to be doing that. So the skill cap in managing these vehicles, in my mind, is knowing when to stop spamming the 1 button on a target and to wait for him to cast the Amber Explosion in Phase 2. That's the most difficult thing about these little guys. The other things you can do, you can press the 2 button because the big guy isn't the only thing that explodes. You yourself actually explode, but you can struggle for control and stop the explosion with the 2 button. However, that 2 button will take a chunk out of your energy. So extra critical to only press that when you need to interrupt yourself and you really don't want to be spending more energy than you need to. The 3 button is like Professor Putricide. You can suck up a yellow pool, and what it does is it increases that energy bar that you're slowly depleting. However, here's the catch. It also increases your health, like it heals you, and you'd think, oh yeah, healing, that's great. Well, the thing is, you're attackable, and your raiders need to attack you down to 20% so you can use the 4 button, and what the 4 button does is it gets you out of the vehicle. So in Phase 1 and Phase 2, your raiders want to be DPSing you down to 20% and then stop DPSing on you. That's like a really high priority in the DPS priority system. You need to make some really clutch decisions. If you're not going to make it, or if the timers aren't going to line up, like if you don't have another person in the suit readily available to interrupt the boss as he does his explosion, you need to stay in the suit, so you need to find a puddle in Phase 2 and suck it up, and then go back to him, and then keep DPSing, or if, like, people are falling behind and, like, stuff in your raid is getting way out of control, you need to actually run over and, like, suck up a puddle and restabilize your energy or your health or whatever. And then the catches in Phase 3, since Phase 3 is a straight burn phase and these little guys do a lot of damage, you basically just want to stay in the suit full time. So if your energy or health gets low, I'd say probably below about like 30% at either, then you want to run over there and like suck up a pool of amber. Overall, this fight is on the execution of making sure to use these vehicles correctly. Like, I mean, the healers are dealing with this debuff and the tanks are dealing with this random stuff. The melee DPS in particular need to watch out for the second phase guy does his stomp, but really the biggest important thing on this fight is every single raider needs to know the individual responsibilities and how to work these vehicles. If these vehicles go smoothly, pretty much it's a free guaranteed kill. This raw capture footage here is the first time we've ever pushed Phase 3. You can tell because I am way not prepared for the amount of damage that was going to come out during this part, but basically you just burn to the end and it should be really smooth. Good luck and have fun.